talking to Mike and Farzin, I really could imagine this really becoming something very big in Canada, because Canada already has a very ample supply of startups, but also has this innovation, let's say, curiosity and ecosystem. And asking them whether they had an office in Canada, they said no. And I said, be our guest to be our guest here at the office. So we are very much excited to ramp this up. Of course, COVID put a little bit of a twist on when we are really able to be physically together in the office. But I see that as a benefit also for our colleagues in BSF to be able to have that experience of this kind of environment, innovation environment, startup environment. But I do see the model that Plug and Play deploys as not only something for BSF, but also our customers. So you will see more and more of these events, at least the ones that BSF is trying to promote, where we would try to open that up to our customers so that we can also have different types of dialogue with our customers. And if you are a partner or a partner thinking to join, I can only motivate you that you do come and join the hub here in Canada as well. Super. So I just wanted to give a high-level overview of who BSF is. Hopefully, some of you know us already. For those of you who are around my age, you also experience us as a cassette tape company. We don't do any of that anymore. We innovated out of that. We've been disrupted out of that. But we are a German multinational, which I'll go here in the slide for a second. Yeah. So I think when we think about our mission statement, or really our brand, we say that we create chemistry for a sustainable future. And of course, when you're talking about sustainable future, you are talking about economic success, but also the social responsibility and the environmental part of this, which all at the end of the day ties in a way with the safety topic that we have today. I'll try to tie that in a bit later. You see here that we are close to, last year, we were close to 60 billion euros. 16 in North America and 1 in Canada. Actually, that's closer to 2 now. So we have experienced some nice growth with some of the ag activities that we have acquired. So ag tech, for example, as a vertical from Plug and Play also becomes quite something that is quite interesting for us. From EBIT, you will see that there, but we do have close to 118,000 colleagues throughout the world. And of course, safety being discussed every day in the start of every meeting also makes sense that we discuss it here. Yeah, 6 Verbund sites. What does that mean? These are these mega sites that we have, where you have multiple plants, maybe dozens of plants, or even hundreds of plants. In the example of our German site, where they are closely connected together, and a byproduct of one production or a waste of one production, it feeds in as a raw material to the other. That has advantages on transportation, which then the logistic part is very important, but also on the environment and overall costs. Yeah, as you are able to use production or even steam and energy from another process into your new process. So again, innovation that is coming from a hub structure is also very interesting. But of course, all these plants together also puts even a bigger focus on safety. Yeah, as you have many of these productions together. Yeah, so some of these remote operations, a lot of discussions on that, on how do you combine this and the data that you're able to retrieve from these mega operations to really do predictive analysis and all that. So all these things that Mike discussed, very, very relevant for BSF. Yeah, and I mean, it goes without saying, the most important part is our customers. We have more than 100,000 customers worldwide, and we are happy to have a presence here in Canada, and even invite them to events like this. Yeah. Here, see very much the same picture that I think Plug and Play showed, and as you can see, we are well spread out globally, and we have presence basically everywhere where Plug and Play has presence. And it only makes sense that in selected areas or selected countries, we really look to focus on innovation. And I'm very happy that we were able to start that plug and play office here, which would also allow us to, again, back to Mike's point on the different verticals, address a lot of our customer demands and even the demands that are coming from the Canadian market. Here you see the business segments. I don't go too much into detail, but it goes without saying that these are very broad stroke industries. And of course, there are specifics, for example, in the ag sector or in the nutrition area where there's a lot of new material requirements. But you have a lot of these technologies which are cross industries, which apply everywhere, safety being one of them, but you have supply chain and some of the other areas. Energy, for example, is a big one for us as well, which really intersect in all of these different segments. And so here you have high level, some of the areas where, or segments that a lot of our businesses operate. Innovation, it goes without saying that, for us to be 153 years old or 52 years old, we need to innovate, otherwise we get disrupted out. So we try as much as possible to disrupt ourselves. And as you can see, we don't come with small dollars in doing this. 2 billion euros, close to 2 billion euros going into innovation, 11,000 people working on this, and we filed 1,000 new patents in 2019. So I think within the chemical industry, we are by far one of the highest patent filers globally. Yeah, and we talk about our sites being Verbund sites, this synergy of many sites put together, but we also talk about the know-how Verbund, which is basically what we want to develop here with Plug and Play as well in our office. So if we go to the next slide, which gets us a little bit into the safety, and I don't want to say too much because I am more curious than anything to see what the startups are presenting to us today. But being in the chemical industry in Canada, actually the chemical industry developed a concept of responsible care, which has now been adopted globally. So this is a Canadian philosophy that really got spread globally, and is one that the UN even picked up. So the responsible care concept on really, it's not only about occupational safety, this is also going to product stewardship, how you conduct your operations, how do you involve with the community. So this is all part of safety or responsible care philosophy or mandate, yeah? And really it's about exposure reduction and being recognized doing this. So in the responsible care philosophy, we also say we want to do the right things and the good things, but we also want to be seen doing it so that this can be pushed forward. Yeah, and we are very proud and happy, and we know that we are lucky in a way. But we have, as with 1,200 colleagues still interacting with customers in Canada. We have 0 cases of COVID confirmed here in Canada so far. And we will, of course, like to keep it that way as much as we can, but we depend on technology to also do this for us. So very much looking forward to the discussion here. And if you are a startup or if you are a partner wanting to understand more our experience with Plug and Play, or our operations as far as BSF, please get in a hold of Irene Yang. I'm sure that she'll be very happy to have the discussion with you. And with that, I thank you again for being here, and look forward to the dialogue. Yeah, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcelo. We appreciate your time this morning. So on the next slide, we're going to dive right into our startup pitches. So as you can see, we're going to hear from 6 different startups today, starting with Kinetic, Oloid, Verve, Myant, Nanos, and Thermoscans. Right now, I will pass it off to Haitham, the CEO and co-founder of Kinetic.
All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm in New York City, so it's definitely morning over here. So I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present. Marcelo, thanks for that overview. That was great. As was mentioned before, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kinetic. I really started this company to help reduce workplace injuries. My mother is a nurse, and I grew up with her busting her back most of her life. So as an engineer, I thought, hey, there's got to be a way we can prevent this, and that's sort of what led to Kinetic. So if you go to the next slide, please. Really what we've built at Kinetic is a combination of a wearable technology, which is very discreet and small, and a software platform that can analyze the data that comes from the device. And really, we want to do two things. We want to help reduce workplace injuries, especially those related to sort of biomechanics and strains and sprains. And we've also updated the product recently to help keep workers safe during COVID-19. So I'll tell you a little bit about both of those things right now. So as you can see, the biggest challenge whenever you want to incorporate wearables into a workforce is just having the workers wear the device. So it's really important that it looks like it's very discreet, it's very comfortable to wear. So this is really a small belt-mounted device. It looks a bit like those pagers that doctors had in the 90s, but it's actually packed with sensors. So if you go to the next slide, the main application that we're trying to do now is to help reduce strain and sprain injuries that are very, very common in factories, warehouses, last mile delivery, all those sorts of areas. So what the device is able to do, it's able to detect postures and motions that can cause injury. So for example, bending at the waist, twisting of your spine, overextension of the spine. And when it detects these motions, the device actually vibrates. So it gives this real-time alert to the worker to let them know that they're using sort of body mechanics that could ultimately lead to injury. And as they become more aware, they start to improve their body mechanics, and ultimately that leads to a reduction in injury rates. So that's our main application, and we've had a pretty good success with this. If you go to the next slide, we sort of extended this idea of giving real-time notifications to workers to protect them from COVID. So now if two workers come within 6 feet of each other, the device actually vibrates. So it gives them this real-time feedback that they're too close and that they should separate. And as they continue to be in contact, they get additional alerts to let them know that they are in contact and potentially at risk of being quarantined if someone gets sick. So that's the sort of new application. And in terms of the configurations of the device, we have packs of 20, like you can see on the left. We have packs of 100 on a cart, and then we sort of have packs of 300 where you can put them on kiosks. So based on your configuration, we can set up different setups. If you go to the next slide. So the second component, other than the wearable, is giving feedback to the employee. So we have a little screen on the device, and if you're able to provide data to the worker, that makes them own a lot more their own safety because they feel empowered to understand the data and see the improvements. So if you go to the next slide. So for things like improving your body mechanics, we have screens on there, like the one on the top left that says you've done 16 high-risk postures today. Your goal is to stay under 65. So that keeps workers, trying to improve over time. We measure their steps because they find that interesting. We give weekly views so people can see how they're improving week over week. And then we have this great sort of competition and incentive program where for wearing it, you get points. For achieving your goals, you get points. And then you actually can get ranked against your colleagues. So it sort of creates this fun competition. So all this is sort of geared towards helping workers improve their body mechanics. And then with COVID, what we've done is we've added a screen where workers can see how many close contacts they have each day. And that way they can see if they're improving over time. Next slide. And of course, the third component is the data that comes from the device. So the data gets uploaded to a piece of software, a dashboard. And if you go to the next slide, you can see a combination on the left of an app that workers can use to see their own data. And also on the right, you can see a dashboard that managers get. And this allows them to see which sites are the highest risk of injury, which job types or which shifts. And so it really allows them to sort of focus their attention on the areas that need it most. And finally, with the COVID, what we've done is we've extended our dashboard to allow you to do contact tracing. So if someone gets sick, you can literally put their name in and it will give you every single contact they've had and the duration of those contacts over a 14-day period. So that really can help you figure out if you need to quarantine anyone. So just to give you a quick overview of Kinetic, we're in about 300 facilities across the world with a big focus in North America right now. We've collected about 6 million hours of data with our wearables so far. And if you go to the next slide, you can see some of the impacts we've had on our customers. So for Home Depot, we've seen reductions of almost 50% in injury rates. We've done this at a very large, in conjunction with AIG, we've done this with a very large glass manufacturer and reduced their injury rates by 62%. And on the right, Iron Mountain reduced their claims by 65%. And they've actually just rolled out the COVID features too, and they've reduced their contacts by 89%. So really, really big impact so far. Next slide. That's it. So thank you very much. If you have any questions about Kinetic, happy to answer them later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Haitham. We really appreciate it. We'll see you shortly in the startup panel. So up next, I'd like to welcome Mohit Garg, the co-founder and CEO of Oloid.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to speak with all of you, and good morning to you all. My name is Mohit Garg. I'm the CEO of Oloid AI. We are a computer vision platform for workplace safety and security. Next slide, please. Oloid is based in Silicon Valley. We have more than 600 customers from manufacturing, construction, supply chain, and pharma. And the team comprises of veterans in technology, which come from companies like MuleSoft, Cisco, Aruba, and IBM. Next slide, please. So to share with you a little more about our company and our product, like we are working with a number of customers around contagion safety use cases with our product. And most of these customers are companies who can't afford to have their workers work from home. So they've employed some manual safety processes, right? So this means there is potentially additional risk for the manual screeners. There's additional time that the employees are taking during the safety screening at entry points, and also additional personnel cost. Next slide, please. With Oloid, these employers are able to automate their manual processes by letting our AI perform the security and safety screening. So to share with you some examples, it'll be about providing QR code-based wellness attestation around their symptoms and travel history, temperature checks using thermal cameras, and contactless access control using facial biometrics and time clocking using facial biometrics. So all of this gets integrated with your backend systems, HRIS systems, access control systems, and I'll talk about how it works. Next slide, please. So let's talk about wellness attestation. This is where you need the employees and visitors to answer questions about their health symptoms and travel history. Oloid takes these data and converts them into a QR code. Employees or visitors can generate this QR code from their home computer or their smartphones. Oloid assesses the risk score and generates a red or a green QR code. This QR code can then be scanned at entry points. If a red QR code is scanned, it generates alerts over SMS and email, which can be directed to the safety EHS teams.
Go.
Just scanning cameras. So instead of a health screener manually pointing a forehead thermometer, Oloid's computer vision AI is able to scan the thermal images of the face for elevated temperature. We have integrated with FLIR thermal cameras, which provide very high reliability of up to 0.3 degrees centigrades. And our proprietary AI on top of it is trained to compensate for variances from ambient conditions, deliver far superior results than a typical IR sensor type of kiosk that you might have seen on the market. Now you can also see that we integrate access control systems. Actually, previous slide, please. The video went really fast, but as you can see, the turnstiles and doors can be unlocked at manufacturing facilities after validating the QR code, after validating the thermal checks. So now this is integrated into the day of the life of worker, right? Our facial authentication technology has consistently ranked among the top 3 systems in terms of accuracy by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Right? So these safety checks are now being introduced by large companies like Flex and PCL during the day of the life of the worker, as opposed to a separate checkpoint at entry. And we integrate with backend systems like ADP, Kronos. So typically like Flex, there are thousands of employees who come into their start of the shift every day, and the safety screening happens at the time clocking event, as opposed to lining up for manual checks and manual verbal questionnaires to be administered. Next slide, please. Similarly, PCL Constructions, a Canada-based company, one of the largest companies in construction in North America, is leveraging Oloid to enable contactless access control and temperature scanning at work sites. So at construction sites, this is a very important part of safety programs and factory floors and PCL and many such large employers. Next slide, please. So when we look at safety, we look at 3 levels of maturity. Most companies started with manual processes, which is level 1, handheld thermometers, verbal questionnaires. Most products in the market take them to level 2, which is just automation. And you remove the human, but then there's no integration in the backend. So Oloid not only provides this automation, but a key differentiator is we are integrated with HRIS systems, so employee data is safe. We are integrated with access control systems, time and attendance systems, and all this data is captured in a HIPAA compliant way, which is very important for an enterprise, right? So examples would be when we integrate with your backend systems like access control systems, users do not need a separate screening process. So even after COVID, this flu season, you can still continue to have benefits of health safety with the Oloid solution. The payback period and ROI is very strong. As you can imagine, it's hard to estimate the incredibly high costs of bad PR, lawsuits of contagion outbreak at the workplace. The reduction in physical security risk and even elimination things like buddy swiping makes it a very cost effective and it pays for itself. So we are looking forward to streamlining safety and security and working with our IT, EHS, and health and safety teams to improve the employee experience and safety at your workplaces. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mohit. We'll see you shortly in the startup panel. Up next, I'd like to welcome Ignacio, the CEO of Verve. Ignacio, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Son, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. It's great to connect with all of you. So I'm Ignacio, the CEO and co-founder of Verve. We launched Verve out of Harvard University last year to develop wearable systems to empower and protect associates across multiple industries. So if we go to the next slide. Our goal at Verve is, there are millions of workers out there performing tasks every day, put a lot of strain, effort on their bodies, and that often leads to back injuries and lost productivity due to the fatigue. So our wearable systems can be worn during a full day to mitigate that problem and really help workers perform their day completely. We go to the next slide. The problem we're solving is basically reduced productivity due to fatigue. We've seen that drop at the end of the day that happens, indicating that workers are maybe doing too much. Improved turnover. A lot of the companies have a huge issue with workers leaving due to the conditions, the tough conditions, in a lot of these places, like distribution centers, warehouses, etc. And then the big problem of injuries, which is really tolling to everyone working in a warehouse distribution center. We focus on the back because it's really the #1 problem, as you may know from your industries. We go to the next slide. Then, if we look at what's around, in the market, there is really nothing that kind of helps protect workers. There's very few startups working on this now, and the technology hasn't really evolved that much over the last 30 years. When we go into a warehouse, we see workers wearing the typical thing, hats, vests, but now technology is ready to be integrated into clothing, and we're starting to see that in some startups like the ones today, which is very exciting. If you go to the next slide. So at Harvard, we developed this core expertise where we are combining clothing with movement science and robotics to really empower the way people move in the world. So we have people in our team that have worked at New Balance for 10 years, really understand how to develop clothing that can be worn comfortably around the person and that people will be excited to wear all day, every day. If you go to the next slide. I'm excited to show that this is how our system looks. So it doesn't really look like a robot, which to us, it's a very good thing. It looks more like clothing. And the way it works is every time you lift something, it gives you a boost of power so that whatever you're lifting feels 30% lighter or so. And that's what we've been validating with our initial customers so far. Let's go to the next slide. So the system can be worn for a full shift. We've had workers wear it for up to 14 hours on a single battery charge, which is really exciting. There's just these long shifts now, especially due to COVID. So it's very lightweight, less than 4 pounds. It's smart and active, meaning it detects how you're moving, that it applies exactly the right amount of assistance that you need for that movement. It's soft and non-restrictive, meaning you can move freely when you're moving around because it's mostly textiles, but it's really when you do that lift that it engages and provides a boost of power so that your back and your hips are not doing as much work. It's pretty easy to on and off. If a new worker comes in, they can be wearing a system in 30 seconds. And we've done a lot of testing to show the effectiveness of this. So we've seen, if you look at the black line, that's muscle activity without a suit. When you put the suit on, that's the activity that muscles do with our suit. So imagine that for every single lift, someone performing thousands of lifts per day. You go to the next slide. The most exciting part is the feedback we're getting from associates. So after wearing it for 8 hours, people are wearing it now in our initial customers for a full day, every day. And they've said basically it feels like power steering, where you don't really notice you're wearing it, but it's when you turn it off, they're like, oh, wow, that was a big difference. And we're getting a lot of, can I wear it tomorrow? Usually the next day I feel back pain, and when I go out of bed, I don't feel that after wearing your system for a full shift. So very exciting, and we're now getting many units out there with our initial customers. So if you're interested, happy to discuss and explore possible partnerships. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ignacio. We appreciate it. Yeah, so up next, I'd like to welcome Irene Yang to the stage, the Director of Business Development and Innovation at BASF Canada, as she leads the first startup panel with Kinetic, Oloid, and Verve. So would love to welcome everyone up to the stage. And as a reminder, for this panel session, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So if you hover over the bottom of your screen, please use that feature and throw in questions as need be. Awesome, thanks.
Thanks, everyone, and excellent presentations from all three of you. I'm going to start off with a specific question for each of you and then throw a few open questions to the panel, if that works. So the first question for Kinetic, why did you select the hip?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we actually had a bit of a trajectory before we landed on that. So we initially had a chest strap, and it turns out that a lot of people don't like things wearing on their chest, especially as they get sweaty. We had a back brace with integrated sensors. It turns out people don't like wearing back braces either. And so we sort of ended up with this sort of discrete device that goes on the belt, which means you have to have more sophisticated algorithms to make it accurate, but that workers are willing to wear. And that's like the #1 challenge, is just having workers wear this. So this is sort of why we settled on that location.
Okay, just to keep things a bit dynamic though, jumping to Verve, you focused on the back. So what is your thoughts and feedback there? Why the back?
Yeah, so we focused on the back. It was really going to a lot of these industry sites in warehouses, distribution, automotive, and aircraft manufacturing mostly. And it was really clear that all the workers, the safety managers, their operations team were really worried about the back injuries. They're just like, #1 injury in most places. So that's why we focused on it. And then also we had this unique technology that is active, meaning it can support dynamic movement. And so we were uniquely positioned to help the back for a lot of those situations. So that's what landed us in the back. It's really the market telling us that was the biggest issue.
Okay, so then it sounds like for a corporate who might be putting this into their warehouse, there might be pros and cons of different places to monitor from.
Oh, yeah. So the way our system works is basically unloads the back when you're lifting by creating a force that is in parallel to your muscles. So you're actually feeling the weight is lighter. And then we have sensors on the back and the legs. So we're providing as well the full biomechanics of like how someone's moving and be able to give some metrics based on that. So it's the combination of both. Thanks for clarifying.
Okay, I have a question now for Oloid. How much accuracy is gained when adding your proprietary AI to the thermal camera?
Yeah, so we are seeing accuracies of about 0.1 to 0.3 degrees, depending on the type of hardware we integrate with. But our AI has some very interesting properties. When you set up a system, you will train our AI with 5 healthy faces in that environment. So your air conditioning, ambient temperature, sunlight, all of that impacts thermal scanning. So we compensate that by seeding our AI with 5 known healthy faces. And that creates a basis for accuracy. So compared to a commodity system, which doesn't have any such AI, it's going to have variances depending on time of the day, around the heat and air conditioning. But our AI is able to compensate for that. So that's a big differentiator, which I always call out, because accuracy is not the only thing. It's about, it may be accurate in some places, but not in the others.
And are you mentioned a Flex, I guess previously Flextronics use case. Is your solution custom or standard? And then follow on to your AI comment on accuracy. Is that location specific learning?
Yes. So short answer is yes, it is location specific learning.
Okay.
For the 5 phases. When you set up a device, our device is a standard device. It's not customized. It's actually software that runs on tablet devices.
Okay.
And we have a FLIR sensor that we attach to the tablet, right? So for Flex or any of our customers, we provide integrations that are specific to that organization. So they may have a different HRIS system, time and attendance system, access control system, but our solution is standard. It's actually an app that you push onto a tablet, which has all the intelligence and AI built into it.
Okay, understand. Thank you. Back to Kinetic. So you talked about employees wearing something that used to look like a pager. I think doctors still wear pagers. But what has been the response and engagement from employees at the site? Knowing that you thought about this, but clearly, the device engages with them as well. So
honestly, now that we sort of expanded to COVID, employees are very enthusiastic about wearing this type of devices because they want to ensure they feel safer by doing it. Or we expanded to COVID and we were focusing mostly on improving body mechanics. Really, there's 2 things you have to do to sort of get high engagement. First, you have to sort of explain it doesn't have a GPS, it doesn't have a microphone, it doesn't have a camera, it's not tracking you in that way, it's really for safety. And I think the second part that really increases engagement is the gamification part. So, getting a rank and seeing how you rank across your colleagues, seeing if you can achieve your goal for the day, all those things sort of keep it interesting and keep it engaging. And we found that has helped workers really engage with it and wear it a lot.
Okay. Along the same theme of privacy, and also I think it was Olio touched on your connection to the HRIS system, which clearly touches on privacy. So can you speak to, any of you guys speak to, how do you get around those challenges that might come up from the labor workforce?
Yeah, certainly, Irene, since you called Oloid out, this is a very important area which both differentiates our product, and we have done huge amount of privacy by design of our product. And the privacy of design is the data. Let's talk about health questionnaires. I answer about my symptoms and my travel history. The data never leaves the smartphone of the device. I carry it embedded inside my QR code, although it never sees that data. That's how the system is designed. And when the QR code is scanned, the data then goes into the employer's compliant database, which could be HRIS or wherever they're managing this data or contact tracing data, and Oloid deletes it. So from a vendor standpoint, one, we never store or see the data. It directly goes along the employer-employee consent relationship. And second thing is we provide all this feedback in a HIPAA compliant manner. So if somebody's temperature is high, it's not a loud beep like you'll see in a lot of systems. All of this system is designed that if I'm in a queue, then people behind me, they do not have knowledge of my answers and any kind of triggers and alerts that are being generated.
Okay. And generally that's helped you win corporate customers, I suppose, the reassurance on the privacy side?
Yeah, so our focus is enterprise, large employers, typically employers with large hourly workforce, and they have to be sensitive to demands of unions. They have to be very, very careful around the employee experience. So yes, our focus has been around privacy, accuracy, integrations in the backend, which large companies value. Like a small company may not value integration with the time and attendance or an access control system. But the large shift of 800 workers, you don't want to slow down the shift start because now you're doing 5 minutes of health screening for everybody.
Okay. A question for Verav, actually. Again, specific question, are the suits sanitized easily? Can they be shared? Because you talked about per shift in your slides.
Yeah. So currently when we are deploying, we're assigning a specific suit per person. And we don't allow sharing, mostly because of COVID. Normally we would allow sharing between shifts. Now we just want to keep that simple. It can be sanitized. We have the textiles can be thrown into the washing machine, like a jacket or anything else. And then we also provide a Lysol spray that is good to be used in porous surfaces. So after using it, you can basically spray it with a Lysol spray that we provide to mitigate some of the issues. But it's really similar to kind of any jacket or any clothing that the workers wear. And we are limiting sharing now because of COVID.
Okay, you're limiting sharing because of COVID. Are you prepared to share an estimated cost?
We are not announcing cost publicly yet, but we work with our partners to define order quantity and then figure out a pricing together on those. So if anyone is interested, I'll be very happy to explore how a partnership will look like.
Again, one more specific question, then I'll throw a few more open questions to the panel. There's a lot of exoskeletons out there and obviously a lot of wearable suits. In fact, you made a comment near the end of your presentation that almost concerned me when you said people were feeling different once they took off the suit. So is there a level of dependency there? And then what is the real difference, if you will, between yours and other exoskeletons?
Yeah, I think for us, the key differentiation is we're using a soft system, so it's mostly using textiles, so that provides a level of safety. It's active, meaning when you don't need it, it's out of the way, doesn't restrict you at all, and it only helps you when you need it, kind of when you're lifting. And so it's really having a soft connected device that is smart, so it can be powered. What we've seen when talking to associates is we're not doing 100% of the work. They're still doing a lot of the work. We're removing that 30% extra that typically leads to injuries or fatigue. So when I mean that, someone, when they're wearing a suit, it doesn't make them superhuman. It just takes that 30% extra off that I think they shouldn't be doing in the first place so that they can work in a more efficient kind of condition. People, when I said about when you turn it off, that's when you notice. It's mostly because it's not doing 100% of it. So it kind of moves to the background. You don't really feel you're wearing it. And it's when you turn it off that it's like, oh, suddenly everything feels 30% lighter, 30% heavier. And so that was kind of the anecdote we got there.
Okay, thank you. None of the presenters, none of you here talked about insurance companies or sort of outside health professionals. Are they involved at all from an advisory side? Do they look at it differently if a workplace has implemented some of your solutions? Any involvement there?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit to that. So in general, most of the especially the first customers we've had are mostly self-insured. So companies that pay for their own injuries because it's a direct benefit. But we have found that insurance companies are sort of eager to embrace these type of technologies. And so we've had, the majority of our interactions have been insurance companies introducing clients that know that they have this type of injury, like strains and sprains or back injuries. And so most of it has been sort of on the referral side. And now we're actually talking with a few where we're hoping to have discounts and premiums sort of built in if customers engage this technology. So I think that will, a bit like what happened with Progressive and the car dongle, I guess that's sort of the next step in the wearable side.
Okay. Any opportunity to leverage the data, even if it's anonymized? Or is it completely not from any of your sides stored or funneled to you guys as the startups?
For us, we leverage data we collect from our sensors. So, all the movement data that we collect, we are saving it anonymized, and we can use it working with their safety teams to understand what are the risks in a specific place. So we work with the data security teams of our partners to make sure that we do that in a way that is sound. And then we provide metrics out of the movement that we collect from the suit. So we're providing that dual benefit of it feels lighter when you lift, and then we're gathering all this movement data that we can use to reduce risk of injury.
And Irene, for us, we talked about maturity level 3, which is not just COVID safety, but also improvement in operational efficiencies. So an example would be if you have a computer vision system installed, you're doing the health screening using computer vision, but it's also giving feedback on which entry points get backed up. Where are you seeing more lines? What is the wait time? We're able to capture this data real time. So when you analyze this over a large data set, multiple shifts, multiple buildings, now you can optimize facilities. I need more turnstiles in this facility. So there's a lot of active feedback where our bet is, while companies might look at COVID as a reason to deploy a technology, it should pay for itself in operational efficiencies in other areas.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't thought about it from that angle.
And then just to add on my side, what we often get is almost the second question we get is like, once a customer deploys this, is how do I compare with others in my industry? And so we've actually been trying to use anonymized data to really benchmark every company we work with, hey, how do you compare in terms of risk to other companies that look like you? And people always are either very happy to see that they're doing great or get concerned that they're maybe below average and want to improve. So it's been great to sort of help companies see how they benchmark.
Now, in your case, is your device inherently safe? And if so, how?
Yeah, right now it is not. We have a version coming out that will be intrinsically safe, but as of now, our current version is not.
Okay. I mean, that's going to be, I presume, one of the fundamental questions, certainly post-COVID. Okay, so the audience here today, I know several of them and happy to have them. A lot of them haven't really worked with startups. So, and today we're focusing on such an important topic, safety. It's not some ancillary app that if it just stops working, then no big deal. So how can you give us confidence that in your own internal processes, you've done the robust diligence in place, given that the device is really used to improve the safety of our teams, for anyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think we can all talk to that, but we have a bit of a chicken and egg problem with startups, which is that, often we have the newest technology, but we are looking for customers to prove it out first. And often a lot of people won't try it until it's proven out. And so you have this sort of chicken and egg problem. So I would say, think of yourself in two ways. Are you hey, I'm the pioneer, I'm willing to test something even if it ultimately doesn't end up working for me? Or am I hey, it needs to be tried and tested, put in the industry by lots of other folks like myself, and that's when I'm willing to try it. We're at the stage where we've had it in enough customers that we have a lot of proof points, but not, we weren't always that way. And so I think you want to work with a startup, just figure out where you feel comfortable. And if you're at that point where you're comfortable testing innovation, even though it might not work for you ultimately, then, startups is a great way to sort of dabble in that.
Any comments from the other two?
Yeah, for us, we work closely with our partners. So when we kick off the partnership, we're now launching limited partnerships. We're only working with 2 customers and looking to add 2 more later this year. So we work very intimately with our customer safety teams to make sure that the technology is implemented in the right way. Over the past few years, we've done a lot of diligence. The technology came from R&D and testing at Harvard University. Through DARPA grants, developed the technology for the military, medical applications, etc. So we've done a lot of human subject testing in our motion capture lab to get confidence that what we're doing is the right thing for the body. And we're also now, there is a body of regulation at ASTM creating standards for exoskeletons and exosuits, and we're very active participants of that. So we're working together with our customers and with the broader community to make sure that all those standards are in place, and that we're applying the technology in the best way with our partnerships. But for us, it's really working very closely with our customers through the deployment of the technology through the different phases.
Okay. And any final, I'll give each of you maybe about 20 seconds, last message or final word from each of you for the audience. Mohit, we'll start with you.
Yes, certainly. So I'll quickly respond to your earlier point about working with startups. We've had a number of customers who were the early customers who took a bet on our technology, become part of our customer advisory board. So that means not only do they have intimate details of our roadmap and product and features, they actually do architecture reviews with us. So for enterprise, I highly recommend that when a relationship is forged with the startup, it's not seen as a transactional vendor relationship, but it's seen as more of, we're going to work with you because we have a shared vision for the industry and what problems we need to solve. So while there are other things like doing pilots and POCs, which are obvious, I think those, if they're done in a transactional manner, they don't work very well with a startup. So that's one thing which I will say. And the second, what I would say is around the current crisis, the COVID back to work safety programs, I see a lot of companies taking a view that this is something I'll implement for a 3-month period, 2-month period, or 4-month period. Nobody has the answer. but thinking about how it impacts the employee experience and thinking about how the technologies you put in place work from a data privacy and integration standpoint is really important for enterprises. So I can't emphasize enough the need to not look at this as I bought a thermometer off the shelf and that is my solution. That worked in the week one, month one, when we were tackling this crisis. But now we have an opportunity to do it right. So we want to partner with companies and share our vision on how this becomes part of a standard operating procedures in companies around safety at the workplace.
Okay. And final words from the other two, just a quick 20 seconds each. Ignacio, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so thanks so much for inviting me for this event. So at Verve, we're now deploying these systems in our initial partners. We're going to be opening 2 more partnerships with additional companies. So if you have an environment where there is a lot of repetitive lifting, back injuries are a problem in your warehouse for your workers, we'll be happy to discuss further and see if we can help keep your workers safe and empowered through their workdays. So yeah, excited to jump on a call if that was of interest.
Thank you.
Yep.
And from Kinetic, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks again for having me too. So, for a lot of you, COVID is obviously top of mind. So the hope, on our side is that while we can provide a solution to help protect workers during COVID, really our main application is to help reduce workplace injuries, mostly back injuries and strained sprains. So the idea is deploying this technology when it's really urgent now, but ultimately choosing a technology that will be valuable for you in the long run. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to Ignacio, Haitham, and Mohit. Additionally, we want to give a very special thanks to Irene as the Director of Business Development and Innovation at BASF Canada. She's responsible for the growth and strategy implementation, which includes driving new leads, several of BASF's business units with local sales and marketing presence. Additionally, Irene oversees innovation and strategic partnerships across Canada. So again, thank you very much. We know your time is busy, and so we appreciate you joining us and leading this panel this morning. So up next, we are going to hear from Andre from Myent. So Andre, welcome to the stage, and you can get started.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me today. Thank you all for this so far, it's been really good. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about my company Myent. So first of all, I work as a mechanical R&D engineer here, and I've been here for about a year. And basically this presentation is a little bit of background on us and how we're reimagining a safe workplace. If we go next slide. So a little background on what Myent is itself. So we are a textile computing company that actually embeds sensors into the fabrics themselves. So whether that be the shirt that you're wearing, the underwear that you have on, hopefully, or the floor mat underneath your desk right there, we want to be able to sense and react to the biometric data that your body is having. So whether that be hemodynamics, biochemistry, mechanics, or electrophysiology, we can actually take these textiles and create a sort of DSL cable between the human body and our technological interfaces and actually have reactions to them, be they vibratory haptics, electronic stimulation, electroluminescence, light, thermoregulation, moisture regulation, all sorts of different things. Actually on that previous slide, so the reason why we chose textiles is because ideally, or realistically, you're constantly interacting with textiles, either the clothes on you or the fabrics around your environment. So in this way, we can actually have a non-invasive, passive method of constantly capturing a 24-hour window of biometric data that gives you better insight into the human body's performance and behavior, as opposed to a 10-minute window in the doctor's office. Next, please. So all these capabilities have the way to completely revolutionize and change the way we live, work, as well as play. So the focus of this is obviously on the work sector. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how Myent is re-envisioning the workplace sector in terms of safety specifically. Next, please. So a little snapshot into the average American's workday. So the WHO shows that over 1/3 of the average adult life is spent going to, coming from, or at work. Now, 8.4 hours a day is a long time to be working when you're not feeling your best or not performing your best in terms of biometrics. Associated with these elevated and long work days are high amounts of work-related stress with very high economic impacts. as the work-related health issues as well as injuries are increasingly common with increasing stress in today's world. Every year in the United States, over $300 billion a year is spent on both healthcare as well as absence cost. Now, while this may seem like a big number, that's actually just a fraction of the total actual impact on the employees and workers, because there are countless different workers that aren't getting diagnosed and aren't getting treatments for their stress levels that are elevated, their chronic neck pain and stuff like that. So there's actually a significant deterioration in the quality of life that is going effectively undiagnosed. Next, please. So Mind's approach to tackling this is to actually re-envision the 8-hour workday. So we're approaching with the holistic 24-hour approach, as in reality, that 8-hour window is actually affected significantly by the other 16 hours of your day and vice versa. Say you go to work and you're having a tough time with things. You didn't sleep well the night before, so you're stressed out to start your day off. As a result, your performance slacks and you start feeling more stress and strain on your body. You then take that stress and strain and potential injury caused by it and bring that home to your family, where different issues may occur because of that, which then affects your sleep, and a negative cycle actually occurs, and it just starts a chain reaction. So Mind's approach is to have a connected workplace as well as a home sector that can actually help you detect these biometric markers that may be indicative of stress, strain, lack of sleep, poor posture, and all the alike, to actually cut them off at the source so that you can stop that chain reaction and take preventative measures as well as reactionary measures. Next, please. So in the actual workplace sector, so in the labor workforce, we have several different wearable techs, including electroluminescence, heating, pressure sensing for the shoes, posture detection on the chairs, and all the stuff like that. Now, beyond that, we have biometrics that can actually track your fatigue as well as stress levels based on HRV and different biometrics, as well as pulse rate and all the alike. And beyond all of this, we actually have a platform to aggregate all of this workplace data and present it to the worker or the employer or the foreman on the job site in a very concise manner that can give valuable insights based on these biometric markers. Now, beyond all of this, we actually have emergency and accident response capabilities on the same platform, which is called Skin, by the way. So say there's a mine collapse and you don't know where your workers are on the job site, you need to know how they're feeling and how their health is. If a worker is now prone, indicative of being knocked over or pinned under some rocks, you now know based on his biometrics that, okay, he is either A, unconscious or conscious, he is very stressed out, he is in pain based on spiking heart rate levels, as well as HRV, and you know all the different pressure variations based on IMUs as well as textile pressure sensors woven into his shoes themselves. So from here, you can allocate the emergency resources to go and direct them in a more efficient manner to save more people. That's obviously a dramatic scenario, but that applies to a number of different situations as well. Next, please. So in the office workspace, we actually can observe increased productivity as well as quality of work, all through reduction of stress. So say you're sitting at your desk and you're slouching for 3 hours a day, a design worker, you know, you're leaning over your computer. Your chair can actually tell based on the textile pressure sensors on it that you've been slouching and that your posture is poor. Based on different biometric markers, we know that your stress levels are elevating and that you're not really going to be performing at your optimal level. Based on this, oh, back please. Can we go back please? Could we go back once? Perfect, thank you. So yeah, based on this, you can know, okay, it's time to take a 5-minute break, stand up, stretch your neck out, rub your eyes a little bit, take a little walk so that you feel refreshed coming back to the workplace and you don't have this negative chain reaction of stress accumulating throughout the day. Based on all of this, you can actually have reduced and redistributed insurance premiums or even customize the policies based on that specific work style. So say you're an office worker and you're constantly slouching over because that's just the nature of the job, you can allocate more of your insurance funding for that company or that role specifically towards, say, massage therapy or chiropractors, as opposed to other industries which may not need these resources quite as much. So you can actually optimize your insurance distributions as well as your benefits packages to be more efficient in all of that. Next, please. So all of this essentially serves to provide a better peace of mind at work, because we don't want at Mind, we don't want to have the best 8 hours of your day, go to work, and then leaving you drained and stressed out and upset coming back to your family life. We want to have a 24-hour holistic approach to actually just make your entire day smoother and reduce stress based on several different factors that expand beyond the 8-hour window. Now, just a little side note here, like based on the current COVID situation, obviously around the world, we've shifted a large number of our production percentages towards the development of customized masks. So we've been rolling out several different masks for the return to work, and we're actually using our expertise in all these different areas, be they biometric markers or otherwise, and actually incorporating them into a smart mask that we're currently developing for the COVID response. So basically, we have the capabilities to do all of this in-house at our manufacturing facilities. So that's basically our approach, and I'd be happy to answer any questions afterwards.
Awesome. We appreciate it, Andre. We'll see you shortly in the startup panel. So up next, I'd like to welcome Thibaut, the CEO of Nanos.
Hello, everybody. Thank you to give us the opportunity to present you our technology and our company. So Nanos developed the smallest selective gas sensors of the world. Next, please. So let's start with some use case directly to understand what we are doing. We made, during 6 years, the development of the smallest gas sensor selective, and you can implement this component everywhere. So, for example, you can measure some gases coming out from your skin, from your breath, to detect some gases, to know some disease, the influence of your alcohol, drugs, the stress, or the diabetic or cancers. Second use case, all the connected device like mobile phone, watch, IoT. You can detect different gases, for example, to measure the carbon monoxide or to measure the air quality or dangerous gases. So many applications. And another use case, for example, of kind of vehicles. So you can measure the air quality of indoor the car, outdoor, and inside the engine, or coming out from the battery for the electrical car. Because, for example, for the cars or different system now, you have some purifier system. And to purify the air, you need to know what is inside the air. So you need small gas sensors with small price, small power consumption, and high accuracy. And it's what we are doing. Next, please. So let's explain me what kind of gas sensor you have on the market actually. Actually, you have 3 kinds of technology. Optical technology is working well, but it's big, high power consumption, and high price. Electrochemical technology, it's the biggest technology on the market actually in terms of volume, but this technology needs a calibration, component per component, and to recalibrate over the time. And most technologies, so semiconductor technology, where we are, have a lot of advantage in terms of size, power consumption, sensitivity, price. But this technology have a big issue until now. It's the selectivity, is to be able to measure one gas in a multi-gas environment, like the air around you. And our advantage is we fix this issue. In terms of markets, all the research markets are showing the gas sensors market are growing fast and will be high in the coming years. As you can see, it's planned to reach 4.1 billion in 2028. And the most technology, we will take the biggest part of the market with 1.6 billion. Next, please. How does that work? In principle, the most technology, it's a semiconductor. You have a support layer, so silicon. You put a circuit with a measurement electrode and heating system. And on that, you put a nanotechnology layer, so a sensitive layer. When the gas coming on, that changes the resistivity of the component. So you measure the variation of the resistivity. But as I said, it's sensible to many gases in the same time. So we create the selectivity on it. Next, please. 6 main markets. Smart city for the air quality, because actually you have a big machine, very expensive. You put one per area for the big city or one per city. But with small sensors and cheap sensors, you can put in every street, so you can have a mapping of the city and to manage your city, for example, the numbers of cars or everything, to reduce the pollution. Automotive, like I said before, consumer device, home, smart home, industry, because industry, you have a lot of applications for the predictive maintenance. For example, to the electrical arc, making a lot of ozone. So with ozone sensor, we can predict electrical problem, but it can be for other gases also. And medical medtech, for a lot of applications, like I said before, we can detect different diseases by measuring some gases. This technology is patented, and we have a full exclusive license on it. Next, please. Next, please. Competition. So for sure there is a competition, but you must remind we are the only one who have the selectivity on this technology. We fix the biggest issue of this technology. Next, please. Our sales progress. We have already orders from major electrical equipment manufacturer, major mobile phone manufacturer, major electronic cigarette manufacturer. We are in advanced negotiation with major consumer electronics manufacturer, major appliance to measure the quality of the food inside the fridge, and major Asia car manufacturer, and already got some orders from evaluation kit from a lot of companies like Samsung or others one. Next, please. So we have a organization model fabless. Can you put all the slide, please? So we created the company in 2012. During 6 years, we made a R&D with the university and CNRS, the public laboratory. During this period, we sold some POCs. We made the first fundraising of 1 million in 2018. We are actually 10 people. We are starting our mass production next year, and we are searching 3 million to make our second fundraising beginning of next year. Next, please.
Hey, Thibaut, sorry to interrupt, but we're actually out of time for this pitch. If there's any questions, we can have you answer them during the startup panel, but we appreciate your time, and we'll see you shortly for the startup panel. Awesome. So up next, I'd like to welcome William to the stage. William is the Vice President of Thermoscans. William, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. And there I am. Thanks for this opportunity. It's William Kazera, Vice President of Thermoscans. We've also got the co-founder of Thermoscans, Alex Papanukulo. We just call him Alex. And welcome everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. Next slide, please. Yeah, so Thermoscans really came into being around the COVID crisis. Back in March, a local community in Ontario, Canada reached out to Alex and said, Alex, we need some of your engineering expertise to help us with this spread of COVID. Alex and his partner, Nisha, quickly went into their laboratory and came out with the Thermoscan scanner, which you'll see at the top of the page there. And so we've been helping police departments, fire departments, municipal offices all through that community. Thanks for that page. Thing to know about Thermoscans, really 3 A's. It's accuracy, super accurate within, currently within 0.5 degrees Celsius. It's automated, hands-free, and affordable. And that's one of the key things working with a lot of our clients during COVID. Cash flow has been an issue. We're Health Canada approved class 1 medical device, and we also follow FDA guidelines. Next slide, please. So basically how it works, you see a couple of the pictures there. So you could either hoist it on a tripod and or place it above the door. basically a subject walks up to the device, a amber light flashes until the person's fully scanned, which is roughly 2 to 3 seconds. Green light flashes if there's no high temperature. Red light flashes if there's a temperature issue or above temperature. The administrator is notified via our app when there's anybody that whose temperature has gone above a normal threshold that the administrator would have set. And they get a photo of the person, so they're able to take action immediately. Next slide, please. So to our precision and accuracy, as mentioned, we're within 0.5, and we're making that even less so as things improve here in terms of our technology. We've got built-in AI capabilities to be able to scan in on someone's face. Very user-friendly, so I'll hold the device up to the camera here, but very user-friendly, easy to install and set up. It's really done within about 5 minutes. All a client needs is Wi-Fi, and it's really quick setup. Contactless, so with being in police stations and some prisons, it's a big issue for some of those departments to not have devices accessible for obvious reasons. Super affordable, as mentioned, and we love to tout this point, but made in Canada, so we're 100% Canadian product. Next slide, please. So here's just a photo of basically what you'll see on our app when there is a subject that goes beyond the threshold in terms of temperature. A lot of the clients we're speaking to are in retail, restaurants, long-term care centers, obviously municipal offices, as mentioned, police and fire departments. We're also noticing a big uptick in the manufacturing plants where there's a large number of people and they need an automated way of making sure their staff are safe and keeping the rest of their team safe. That's it for us. We appreciate everybody's time and attention. And here's some contact details for us, and we look forward to some of your in-depth questions. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, William. Yeah, so right now we're gonna jump into our second startup panel. So I'd like to welcome Myant Nanos and Thermoscans back to the stage. Additionally, I'd like to welcome Sean Kamer. He is the head of safety for Canada BASF and a member of the Canadian leadership team. Sean's responsibilities include the overall effectiveness of the safety culture within BASF Canada, as well as partnering with several operating divisions to ensure compliance and license to operate. So welcome, Sean, and welcome back to the startups. Sean, I'll let you take it over from here.
Sean, you're muted.
My apologies. I turned my video on. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Your products are very, very interesting. And I'd like to ask a few questions and learn a little bit more, if I may. Andre, I'd like to start with you. You talked very quickly there at the end about your masks, specifically the sensors. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the sensors work in the mask?
Yes, so that's actually a very new development. It's not yet released yet. We're actually planning a press release very soon, so I guess I'm not sure if I'm getting in trouble for saying this, but you guys are the first to hear about it. Essentially, we're taking our textile masks, which we pride ourselves on our textile prowess, I guess you could say. So we're looking to make a fully functional N95 grade mask, as well as NIOSH rating for certifications as well. So essentially this mask will have a frame and it'll be removable, and some variations of it will actually have a clear front that you can actually see through, which helps with communication, in particular in medical cases where there's a lot of hearing impairment as well as just stressful environments, and being able to read the mouth would be very beneficial. Beyond this, we can have sensors actually embedded into the frames themselves. So there's some cutting edge research where based on the saliva, you can actually detect COVID particles as well as other VOCs. So you can incorporate that into the frame itself. You can have temperature sensing as well as different, just a bunch of different sensing in general. So respiration, heart rate variability, and temperature can all be included into the mask itself, which can all be very powerful, not only COVID, but general health signs.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for that explanation. Look forward to reading more about this. Thank you. So for Thibaut, a question came in through the chat and I missed the answer. So maybe if you don't mind explaining a little bit more about how your selective technology works.
So in principle, this technology, like I said, is sensitive. One component is sensitive to many gases in the same time. And what we do, it's generally all of our competitors have one sensor, one heater on one chip. In our case, we patent the fact to have multiple heaters, and we have 2 heaters and 4 sensors on one chip. Because of that, for one environment at a certain time, we have 4 output signals. And on this 4 output signal, we use deep learning algorithm to create the selectivity.
Okay.
Is that clear?
I think so, yeah, thank you. And second question I have for you, is this device intrinsically safe?
In principle, it's safe because we are testing during the manufacturing process. So we are manufacturing on wafers. For example, on wafers, you have some 1,000 pieces. And we come to test electrically each component. Each component are tested, and we select only the component who are working and also only the component who are on the manufacturing tolerances we have defined. Like this, we are sure all of our components are in the right tolerance. Like that, our algorithm will work.
All right, thank you. William, question for you if you don't mind. During your presentation, you mentioned that you have a kind of a red light, green light process, right? So that if the individual scans good or less than the set temperature, it goes green. But if it's red, my question would be, is it tied into a facility security system that, you know, if you're red, the doors stay closed?
Yeah, so great question. Our application has open APIs, and so although it's quite confidential who's doing what, some of our clients have asked for integration with their door systems and their key fobs. And so the simple answer is yes, we're integrating with things like that. But we also have some clients that are a bit cautious about quote unquote temperature shaming people. So although they've got the capabilities, they'd rather kind of the human approach of walking up to somebody and politely asking them to step aside or to not come in.
Okay. All right, and you said that if it does go red, it goes to an administrator. Is that real time, or is there a delay? So that my concern would be maybe someone can get through the door still. How do we go back and talk to that individual before potential spread of the disease? Excuse me, virus.
Yeah, it's almost immediate. So it's as immediate as internet allows. So as soon as the person is scanned, and it's right about the time that the person sees the red light that the administrator gets notified. Now, depending on how quickly they move and whatever their operational policies are for taking action at that point, we leave that up to our clients and we help them with whatever their measures and policies are in terms of how immediate they want things or how, again, if they want their door to lock, etc.
All right. Well, thank you. Andre, I'm going to jump back to you if you don't mind. You talked a little bit about if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm slouched over, I'm getting some pretty quick feedback because I'm at my computer, right? Talk to me a little bit more about what that looks like for an operator out on the manufacturing floor, not having access to their phone or a computer. What's the immediate feedback to change that behavior?
So I guess it depends on the application. So essentially you can tailor our technology to fit whatever you would want for that specific application. So our native system is essentially low energy Bluetooth, which communicates to a phone or tablet or a computer that says, okay, it shows you the profile. You can get an alert saying, okay, you're slouched forwards. However, we can incorporate something that has a vibration setting. So if it notices that when you're standing, you're kind of leaning back on one leg for too long when working at the ship, it'll actually vibrate your shoe a little bit and say, hey, stretch your legs out a little bit. So you can actually tailor whatever you would want into the device itself based on that application. So they're all very modular.
Okay. And we talk a lot about data. So obviously in Canada, privacy is a big topic of concern these days with everything going on. And William, I'll probably ask you the same question. So where is the data being stored and how is it being utilized?
It's all locally stored. And so it's not being distributed to anybody yet. So we're not on the market yet. So these aren't real products. We just have R&D prototypes for all of this stuff through our different partnerships with different clients. To start with, the data is just locally stored and based on consent given between the employer and the employee, then it would be shared between the two. However, for medical cases down the road, we're planning to be sharing that data, of course, with consent to the clinician themselves so that they can get more data and a better insight into the patient's actual health.
Interesting. Thank you. So Bill, same question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and we do get this question a lot because we're working with a lot of government agencies. The storing of the information, there's two options. I could store it locally or in a private cloud. So we maintain that the information is all theirs, the photos of anybody who's gone beyond the threshold in terms of temperature. That data stays with the client. It's up to the client to maintain, use that data, erase that data, or even capture that data. So some clients turn that data off. And they're just interested in getting notified.
All right, thank you. And if you don't mind, I'll keep you on the hot spot here. Some questions coming in for the field. So beyond COVID, what are some of the other applications that your technology can support?
Yeah, they're obviously, well, maybe not so obvious, but temperature, a high temperature is an indication of a lot of various things. So as some of us parents know, children are sent home with high temperatures all the time to keep from, spreading whatever illness they might have, and fevers and things like that. So we see a good use case that way outside of COVID. We think of high temperature as sort of like the check engine light in your car. It's an indication that something is up. And so, again, we see a lot of use cases. One interesting one that just came up recently working with the police department is high temperature is also associated with drug use. And so without police needing to administer a drug test, they can safely assume that somebody's quote unquote under the influence. And be able to take action to keep that person safe, but also the people around them.
Great. I'm looking at my time and I see that I'm pushing the envelope, but Thibault, I do have one question for you, and maybe it's two wrapped into one. Can your device be used in a flammable atmosphere? And can it be used in EX zone?
So in principle, this technology can be used in explosive area or depend of what you mean by flammable, because it's a component, so you can burn in for sure if you put the fire on it. But in principle, it can survive with more in terms of degree. It can survive with more than 80 degree, 100 degree. So okay. This is the level. After you have the packaging of the sensor is in plastic. So after you will destroy the packaging of the component. And it will never create an explosion with explosive gases.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Sean, I think I pushed my envelope, so I'm gonna pass this back to you. And for our presenters, thank you. I think there's a couple questions here. Checking the chat box and responding.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Sean, and thank you very much to Andre, Thibault, and Will. We greatly appreciate everyone's time, especially you, Sean. We know you're very busy, so thank you again for joining us. Yeah, so as of now, I'll kick it over to Farzin Shadpour from Plug and Play for some closing remarks.
Great, thank you. Thanks to Marcelo, Irene, and Sean for helping us with the event today. And thanks to the startups for sharing their technologies with us. It's interesting to see how many different people are approaching the challenges of safety in many different ways and using many different technologies from AI to IoT to wearables to help us manage better. I want to especially thank my friend Marcelo for coming up with the idea for this session today. I have the privilege of working with many great leaders globally. And when I ask them for subjects for events and for introductory seconds to startups, the first one that comes up usually involves something that relates to the product or business development. When I asked Marcelo, the first one that he immediately came up with and asked us to do was safety. So thank you so much for being so cognizant of your workforce and the workforces of Canada and North America, and for suggesting this great subject. I think it was timely and I think everybody benefited. I know that we are out of time, so I won't take more of your time. Thank you again for giving us a couple of hours of your time today. If you would like to meet any of the startups or any other startups around these subjects, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or my team. Thank you again for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Farzin. We appreciate your time. We appreciate everyone's time on today's webinar. Some upcoming events that we do have is the Hydrogen Innovation Day, which will be taking place on September 2nd, focused on hydrogen. And on September 8th, we also do have our portfolio showcase series that will showcase two of our portfolio companies, Oloid and StrongArm. So we greatly appreciate this and we'd love to have you guys join. Thank you again to everyone who participated today, and we hope everyone stays safe and healthy. Thanks.